In this video, we'll discuss the essence of targeting in Facebook. And this very concept applies to all other social media networks like LinkedIn and whatever comes next. So pay close attention because you're going to have to do this when you are starting your first campaigns on Facebook. And these initial targeting options that you set up will be key to the success of your campaigns. So what we are going to discuss here in this video is the detailed targeting options, which, as you can see over here, are the demographics, interests, or behaviors. Now, there's a few ways to explore those. And the question is, where do you start? So first of all, before you start making any type of campaign, you should be aware of some things about your business. That's why we're going to use Masters Academy as an example, because actually I have a real case for a business plan and a marketing strategy over here. And we'll use Masters Academy to show you how you can create your initial audiences and initial targeting. Now, first of all, Masters Academy sells digital courses online, obviously, as you can see, and we have our core customers. So these are kind of simple descriptions of who are our customers, and those would be the people that we want to target. Now, we know who they are, but we really need to describe them with some interests and some options to make sure that we can reach these guys through an advertising network like Facebook. So for this one, we have the customers and targeting tool where you should really describe your segments in a somewhat of a similar format to this one. So first of all, here I have three main segments. So this is what the first one is the future marketers, which is what we call kind of the newbies, the marketing students, everyone who wants to learn marketing and wants to get a job in digital marketing. And, you know, these guys who are not professionals. Then our second big segment, which can of course be divided into sub-segments, is the marketing professionals. These are from people starting from, you know, people who just work as marketers. They maybe have a marketing manager, a boss, or whatever, or they could be the marketing manager themselves. Highly professional people who just want to get to the edge of the industry and just want to exchange experience with us, for example. And then in our third segment, we have the digital entrepreneurs who could be, you know, single hustlers just starting their own business or online store. It could be big businesses. It could be CEOs. It could be, let's say, any type of C-level executives and all that. And they would most likely be businesses, so their description is down over here. And so really about 70% of all businesses on the planet could really benefit from going through Masters Academy. So this is another huge segment, but this doesn't really tell us how do we actually reach these people. And so that's what we're going to try and do in these targeting options over here. Now, obviously, you have to select all the other options as well. So, for example, in this case, as locations, let's just go broad, and we'll just go with Europe and North America. Now, in this case, I will select English as a language because in some of these places, lots of people don't speak English. So that's why I will select English as a language in this case. So for example, like people from Mexico don't really speak a lot of English, and that's why we are going to exclude them. And in Europe, there's also some places where people really don't speak that much English. For example, you could have, you know, specific regions in Belgium or Austria or Romania where people don't speak English. So that's why we are going to select a language here. Usually we leave this blank if we are selecting one country and everyone speaks the same language over there and our ads are in that language, and that's clear. But in this case, we're just going to select the language and move on to the detailed targeting options. So here, let's say that we want to target our first segment, which would be the future marketers. So we've selected the countries, then the age range is another thing that we want to select. So let's say the future marketers, like if they're, they should be something between 16, maybe even 15, and 30, right? That would be our age range. Let's see what we said here, 16 to 35. So we could have, as you can see here, we've separated it into two parts. One is 16 to 35, which are the students, and then 35 to 55, which are the profession changers. But for now, let's focus on the students. We'll get to that in a second. So let's say these are 15 to 35. Maybe that's even a little bit broad, so let's go with 30. People of all genders can be interested in learning digital marketing, so that's not a problem. And then we get to this point. So let's see what we know about these people. First of all, we can target them by their occupation. So for example, they could be a marketing intern. On Google Chrome, this is quite slow, so if you don't see any results, you just really have to wait for them. And you can see that we have some interests over here. Interests like digital marketing, affiliate marketing, search engine marketing, and so on. But those are interests. We also have Internet Marketing Manager, Internet Marketing Specialist. Those could be used in different segments later on. And we don't have a lot of interns, so it's kind of tricky to go. But even though they might be interns, they would be named, let's say, specialists. So in this case, this audience is quite small. It's only 6,000 people, and internet marketing managers are around 7,000, so not big. But if you go to something like digital marketing, because it's an interest, you will see a much larger audience. So here on the right, you see, on the left, you see the interest itself, or the thing itself, and then on the right, you see what type of thing it is. So in this case, this is the digital marketing interest, which is a lot broader than the job title. And you also have some behaviors like frequent international travelers. That would be a behavior. And so what you generally want to do in the beginning is start with something that's very broad, like digital marketing, the interest, which has a large audience. And then what you can do is use the suggestions. And so here you will get a lot of interest. And for example, this is an interesting one, fields of study, online marketing. So once we got to that, we can get rid of the digital marketing and see the suggestions for that. And maybe we'll get some more targeted. So we have some employers, internet marketing job titles is interesting, so we can add that. And then we have digital strategy managers. We have some very cool online titles here, and these can potentially be used within our segments. And you have to understand the fact that we logically separated these segments like this does not mean that we are going to be targeting them the same way. It doesn't always work that way. Ideally, yes, we would, because we separated them in the beginning by these segments because these people are really interested in different things. So the future marketers are interested in getting a job. The marketing professionals are interested in maybe getting a promotion or getting better at what they do. And the digital entrepreneurs are interested in business performance. So they're interested in getting more profit out of their business. So they really are looking for different things, and that's what separates them into different segments. And that's why we are going to have different offerings for these people if we can. But that's not always the case, right? So initially, what you want to do is just make a list of the interests that you want to target. So Here we have a small column that we have for ideas, I think. Anyways, we can make a new one, and let's say targeting interests. Right. So we are going to just start making notes of these over here. So first of all, we have lots of things that we have in terms of interests over here. So let's just copy a few of them. Right. So we can see that there's lots of them, like in terms of job titles and interests. There's a few cool ones. And initially what you want to do is just kind of make a good collection of them and see how much people they have. So this one, for example, marketing 700 million people, that's obviously way too broad. So you can't go with something like this. And you want to really test each of these specific options separately. So before we move on, I think it's important to discuss a few things. Where do these things come into play? So ideally, what you want to do when you create a Facebook campaign is you want the algorithm and the Facebook data and the artificial intelligence to kick in and start making money for you. But in order for you to get there, you need to have your initial, let's say, 200 conversions for that data to really start working. And once you have, for example, 200 sales, you can create lookalike audiences who are similar to your exact customers, and then that's going to be a very highly performing audience. You are going to have custom audiences based on the events that happened on your website, like add to carts and purchases and so on. All of these things you can create better audiences for later on. But right now, if you have zero, you need to start somewhere. And this somewhere is by creating your cold, broad audiences. And by cold and broad, I really mean it. So they're cold because they don't know you, and they first need to become aware of your business, and they have to be broad for this to work. Because if you go with a really tiny audience, Facebook really kind of doesn't work. I know it doesn't make sense, and this is exactly why I'm mentioning it, because generally, if you know the exact 10,000 people who are going to buy your product right away, you should be going for them, right? Well, not really on Facebook. So going with super narrow targeting for your audience is not a good idea, because what you really want to do is feed Facebook with data. You want to get purchases and conversions, obviously, so you want to have some specific targeting, but you also want to kind of be broad enough to let Facebook do its job later on. So right now, we can see that we have discovered some things that we can use. Let's say we got to job titles, digital strategy manager, internet marketing. We could have, head of marketing, which is definitely within segment number 2. Director of sales and marketing, director of sales marketing, digital strategy, vice president of sales and marketing. Maybe the VPs won't go for us really. Social media managers would definitely benefit from the course. Digital marketing strategists would definitely be there. And you can see that we have discovered already some cool interests just by using the suggestions. What you can also do is go and browse. So for example, you can go with fields of study. And if you go to the fields of study, you will say, let's say, marketing. Again, if you're using Google Chrome, you have to wait for it. So we have online marketing, and this is another one where we can select that. I think I have that already. Yes, I do have it. But sometimes you also have to kind of be creative and try and use the search for that. So let's say we could do something like MBA. which would be a Masters of Business Administration. Again, if you're using Google Chrome, you really have to wait for it. Sometimes it's a little scary because you don't know whether or not this is going to give you some results. If you want to make it faster, just go ahead and use Mozilla for this specific purpose. So we don't seem to find anything for MBA. Let's say sales. For sales, we also don't get anything. And that's kind of where it doesn't really become too good. So maybe go with, yeah, business studies is another one, which is interesting. And Master of Business Administration, here it is, right? So sometimes you have to be a little patient to try and discover all of these things. So another thing that I want to show you is what you want to discover in the beginning is the big clusters or categories of targeting options that you can use. So for example, one would be job titles. One would be competitors. Then you also have personalities or influencers, we can call them, within the industry. We can have media. We can have brands, some specific brands that are not precisely competitors, but can be very targeted. So an example of that would be like Shopify. A good example of an influencer would be Gary Vaynerchuk. We already learned a little bit of his strategies for social media marketing. In terms of competitors, we could have, for example, Digital Marketer or Udemy. And in terms of job titles, let's say we have something like Social Media Manager. We can have, you know, things like software would be another one where we have maybe, I don't know, Moz would be one, Ahrefs. Those would be tools that marketers are using. And so because they like and they're interested in these tools, we know that these guys are marketers, because non-marketers are really not interested in Ahrefs, for example. So people who are interested in Ahrefs are certainly digital marketers. And so this is another way for us to target them. And so what we want to do is make a collection of these options and then start testing them one by one. So the way we would be doing that is we would create a campaign. We would select a conversion. So in this case, that would be the course purchase or a free trial. Initially, we want to go for the ultimate conversion that we want to get, which is we want someone to purchase the courses and sign up for Masters Academy. So that's what we are going to use for a conversion goal. And we want to test all of these interest options with a very small budget in different ad sets. So you don't want to create one ad set with all of them inside. What you want to do is you want to test each and every one separately. So that poses a problem, because if you end up with 100, you have two options. Either select the best, maybe top 10 of the ones that you think are most relevant and test those in the beginning. And another one would be to group them up. And just like we did over here, where we are going to end up with ad sets for each of these different categories. And so we can do both of these. Now, before we actually start doing the audiences themselves, I want to show you an even better way, because the problem with this is that you really have to look for them, use the suggestions and discover them, and that's a lot of work. And there's actually a better way, which I'm going to show you in the next video.